A state of emergency has been finally declared in Florida, not a hurricane, but a red tide, a shocking red tide, one of the largest the state has seen in over a decade. It is killing so many fish. It has shut down beaches on the West Coast, all over the state. Why is this happening? Jeff Flock of Fox Business is investigating for our show. Here's his report.
Tucker, we come to you tonight with the sound of a drone. Perhaps you see it here, and this kind of gives you the best picture of the green tide. Go ahead, guys, take it away. Maybe he gets a better picture that way. This is the green tide, which has hit the inland areas. This is largely as a result of the runoff from Lake Okeechobee, agricultural runoff, the fertilizer and other agricultural products running into the rivers and leading to this kind of pond scum, which some have called it. It's actually kind of a green kale smoothie. This is in addition to the red tide. Maybe you see some of the fish and other marine life that have been killed by the red tide. That's a separate issue, but kind of a double whammy for the folks in Southwest Florida and South Florida right now. It's become something of a political issue about that runoff coming out of Lake Okeechobee, because this is what's in the backyard of a lot of folks that live out here. That is, well, it's an algae bloom. And a lot of people think it's as a result of too much water coming out of Lake Okeechobee with too much agricultural runoff. Not a pretty picture in Southwest Florida tonight. Tucker.
Thanks, Jeff. A bona fide disaster. Dr. Richard Pierce is a scientist at the Mote Marine, the famous Mote Marine Laboratory in Sarasota and Boca Grande, Florida, and he joins us tonight. Doctor, thank you very much for coming on. The scale of this, for people who haven't seen it, is enormous. This is horrifying. Why did it take until right now for a state of emergency to be declared?
Well, I'm not sure, Tucker, what the criteria would be for having a state of emergency. We've been studying this particular bloom on and off since last October, and it just goes north, south, offshore, onshore. In some areas it becomes quite intense, and then other areas it's not so bad. But it has been very intense along the mid of the West Florida shelf coast. And so people have just been exposed to it for too long, and they're really just fed up with it.
Well, it's destroying one of the greatest fisheries in the United States, and really a natural resource of incalculable value. So is it as clear as agricultural interests are doing this? That seems to be the explanation. Is that true?
Well, it depends on whether you're talking about the cyanobacteria, which is the freshwater harmful algal bloom, or if you're talking about the red tide, which is the saltwater harmful algal bloom. My area of research focuses primarily on the red tide, which is a naturally occurring part of the natural phytoplankton community, which are the microscopic single-celled photosynthetic organisms, and this particular one is a dinoflagellate. It also produces some very potent neurotoxic chemicals, which affect animals much like some pesticides do. Normally, when there's just a few cells in the water, which there are normally, if you have just a few cells per liter or per quart, there's not enough toxin to cause a problem. When it gets to hundreds of thousands and millions, as it is in some areas along the coast of Florida right now, it becomes a serious problem. And that's what we're feeling right now. This is, as you've said, a very serious bloom, and it's been going on for some time. In my tenure here at Mote Marine Laboratory, which has been a little over 30 years, I would say we have had equally intense blooms and actual ones that lasted longer than this. So it's something that has happened before, but it is something that we need to get a better handle on. We've been studying what it is, where it is, understanding the public health aspects of it, and how to avoid them, how to mitigate those effects. Now we're starting to look more at what might be done about actually controlling, especially what's along the coast.
And anyone who's adding to this should be in trouble, it seems to. I mean, if you're out there and you consider yourself an environmentalist, this would be one of those rare events that's worth being upset about. It seems to me. Dr. Pierce, thank you very much. Good to see you.